Welcome to the Luke Macias Show. Former state senator, now Chancellor Brandon Creighton, is kicking his tenure off as chancellor with a bang. Sands Casinos has placed a $1 million television buy against Senator Bob Hall. And we have a Florida congressman who is looking at moving to Texas to be a Texas congressman. Let's get to the show. I told y'all when this was announced that the ultimate decision of Texas Tech University to pick Senator Brandon Creighton as their next chancellor was a bit of a loss for legislative advocates, conservative legislative advocates in the building, because Senator Brandon Creighton has been such a crucial voice in the policymaking process as state senator, probably one of the leading voices in that chamber, and somebody who was leaned on by many different groups to carry through substantive policy that moved our state in the right direction. But it was a win for not only Texas Tech University, but higher education in Texas as a whole. I've said this many times on this show, but we have this problem where we are significantly funding these institutions that are creating leftists. We are importing patriots, okay? 65% of the people that move in from out of state and register to vote here in Texas are Republicans. We're importing patriots while we are then creating through the K through 12 system and then our university system, Marxists. So we're literally manufacturing Marxists in our midst while importing patriots to offset the Marxists that we are creating. And Senator Brandon Creighton's move to Texas Tech will set a new tone, not only hopefully for Texas Tech University, but also for our state institutions. You see, what has happened is that Texas A&M and University of Texas and some of these other state university systems will sometimes make the right decision, but only when significant pressure is applied. So it takes an investigative report. It takes letters. It takes publicly calling them out. It takes hitting their donors and one by one calling very generous individuals to the institution to put a significant amount of pressure onto the regents or the chancellor or the president to make the right decision. But what has changed at Texas Tech is that now former Senator Brandon Creighton, now Chancellor, is actually taking action without that pressure. He doesn't need a letter. He doesn't need a public outcry. There have been no investigative reports done on Texas Tech University. You can go to Texas Scorecard to read this story. The headline is Texas Tech Prohibits Advocacy or Race or Sex-Based Prejudice. This is from Adam Kahn, who's done a lot of higher ed reporting for a long time. He actually just recently said that the thing he's most thankful for this year on the little Thanksgiving episode that Texas Scorecard did was that he's getting to witness a lot of revolution in higher education that he's wanted and prayed for a long time. Here's his piece. Texas Tech University System Chancellor Brandon Creighton has issued a policy memorandum prohibiting the advocacy of race or sex-based prejudice in course content within the system's component institutions. The memo, which was issued to the system's 5 campus presidents, is designed to ensure that classroom instruction fully complies with state and federal law, Board of Regents policy, and chancellor directives. The memo defines this content to include inculcating the belief that, 1, one race or sex is inherently superior to another. 2, an individual by virtue of race or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, consciously or unconsciously. 3, any person should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment because of race or sex. 4, that moral character or worth is determined by race or sex. 5, individuals bear responsibility or guilt for actions or others of the same race or sex, right? This is the white guilt complex. Hey, I just feel guilty because of what other people that look like me did. Or black guilt. I feel guilty because of this thing, these violent crimes that black people commit. So we don't want to teach that individuals bear responsibility or guilt for actions of others of the same race or sex. And then lastly, meritocracy or a strong worth ethic are racist, sexist, or constructs of oppression. And these are things that are being taught in our universities, right? Do you believe in merit? Do you believe in hard work and that that's going to do better? Well, that must be because you're inherently racist or sexist. You're part of the patriarchy, or you're part of the white dominance in our society. These are dangerous Marxist ideas that get constantly preached to our university students. And over time, it has an impact. The story goes on to say Creighton's memo also outlines a course content review process with various responsibilities assigned to professors, department chairs, deans, and provost offices. The memo warns faculty that noncompliance with the review process can result in disciplinary action. So I want you to understand, and you can go there if you want to read the rest of the story at Texas Scorecard, but these are actions being taken that set a tone that says we are no longer indoctrinating students in Texas. Thank God. By the way, Sands Casinos, I've talked about them the last couple episodes, but they did, since my last episode, place a $1,070,000 buy on broadcast going from January 20th to March 3rd in Senate District 2 against Senator Bob Hall. Now, again, what Sands Casinos is doing is they are trying to insert fear into the lawmaking process, the fear of them. They want lawmakers to say, we have to at least give Sands something. Give them a couple casinos so they'll stop attacking us. And this is the approach they've decided to take. And it is their right to do so, but it is our right to criticize their imbecilic behavior. And that is what this is. Casinos are an exclusive right to financially pillage a society. That's what a casino license is, an exclusive right to financially pillage a society. And that's what they want. And they're mad that people like Senator Bob Hall won't give them that right, that exclusive license. Only you get to financially pillage this entire region of Texas. It's a profitable business. If I had that right, I think I'd make a lot of money. If you had that right, I think you'd make a lot of money. And so it's worth it if you think you have a good shot at getting that, or even if you have a teeny little shot at getting it. It might be worth it to drop $1 million against a state senator just for fun. One state representative that we know they are also coming after is Andy Hopper. And Andy just recently, a week ago, posted a video that I thought was helpful. And many of you listen to this show, but I'm just going to play this clip from what he released here.
Hey, Patriots. New Yorkers just surrendered all of their God-given rights and liberties to a radical that has no intention of honoring his oath to the Constitution. Here in Texas, we must secure your liberties and your rights and make Texas the deeply red conservative bastion that everyone in this country believes that it already is. You know, our founding fathers had a recipe to make sure that your rights are protected, and that is your state government and your state legislature. You know, Alexander Hamilton made it really clear in Federalist 26 that your state legislature should be at all times suspicious and jealous guardians of your rights against tyranny, and that they should be the voice and, if necessary, the arm of your discontent. If there is any post-Trump eventuality that we end up with a president like Joe Biden again, it is up to the state legislature to make sure that your rights are protected. We have a super narrow window to accomplish that. We have 2 to 3 years left in President Trump's presidency, and we have to make up a lot of lost ground in the Texas House. That's why I ran to be your state representative, because we have a growing army of conservatives in Austin that are ready to stand up against the Austin Uniparty and stand for your rights. It has been my honor and my pleasure to fight for you in Austin and to serve as your representative in the Texas House.
I hope some of y'all appreciate the caliber of lawmakers that got elected in the last election. I really do think a lot of conservative activists, I wouldn't say a lot. I really think there is a segment of conservative activists, not a lot, but a segment of conservative activists that simply are unwilling to acknowledge just how fortunate we are. It's like somebody on Thanksgiving that doesn't know what to be thankful for. People like Andy Hopper are in the legislature. Men who have the willingness to Know what time it is one of the terms we've used here. To know what time it is. And Andy clearly knows what time it is. And that's a problem for Sands Casinos. So they are telling everyone that they are also going to be spending $1 million or $2 million against Andy Hopper to try to unseat him. That is their plan. So yes, they've placed television against Bob Hall. They're coming against David Lowe. They're coming against Andy Hopper. They might come against a broader set of lawmakers like Helen Kerwin and Mike Alcott and Carissa Richardson. They are still trying to recruit people to run for other Senate seats to potentially take out David Cook or Dennis Paul or Brett Ligon. These are the conservative options for the open Texas Senate seats. This is a real battle. We know it is. We know it's worth fighting. And it's just important for all of us to know what the heck is going on out there. So I'm hopeful that just these updates are letting you know what is all happening.
Hey folks, Chris Salcedo here. I've got something special for you, the Salcedo Storm podcast. As your friendly, liberty-loving Latino, I bring you a mix of engaging discussions to help us fight for our state and our conservative values. It's the perfect way to stay informed and engaged in what's happening around you. So, what are you waiting for? Don't miss out on the storm of information and entertainment coming your way. The Salcedo Storm podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
We have had a handful of additional dominoes that have dropped. One is that Congressman Troy Nehls is not seeking re-election, and he is the congressman from Fort Bend County, just south of Houston. He is a bit of a local legend. For those of you who don't know Troy Nehls, he is a fantastic member of Congress and has been one of the leading conservative voices out of the Texas delegation. A day after, I think the same day, he decided to not run for re-election. His identical twin brother, Trevor, announced that he is running to replace Troy. And anybody who knows the Nehls knows that the Nehls brothers are local legends, not just Troy, but Trevor as well. And so I do believe that Trevor Nehls is excellently positioned. I think that's a word. Excellently, most excellently positioned would maybe be the way to say it, to replace Troy Nehls. The people in that community love Congressman Nehls, and they want more Congressman Nehls. And what easier way to get more Congressman Nehls than to vote for his identical twin brother, Trevor, who aligns with him. I've never seen them not align. So I wouldn't say 100%, but I would say as close to 100% as you can get. Ironically, State Representative Jacey Jetton is also running for that seat. Jacey Jetton. Now, Jacey Jetton lost horribly in his last election. And that is because he is one of 11 Republicans who not only voted, he is one of 11 Republican lawmakers who not only voted to fund transgender social transitioning, but advocated for that. The rest of them just followed Jacey. But this happened last session. Not this last session because he was ousted, but in 2023, this happened. In fact, for those of you who don't remember what happened, I'm just going to go to the 3-minute clip of what happened in that debate.
The following amendment, the clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Tenderholt.
The chair recognizes Mr. Tenderholt to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, my amendment simply prevents grant programs from directing funds to children's hospitals that provide psychological, behavioral, gender transitioning procedures. I move adoption.
The chair recognizes Mrs. Johnson of Dallas in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we are having an incessant amount of these kinds of amendments on every bill in this body. There are bills moving that we can have a thoughtful conversation about the role of mental health care and gender affirming care. But this bill is not it. This bill is designed to provide capital improvements to children's hospitals for mental health care, and we need to put a stop to this, and I'm asking you to vote against this amendment. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Mr. Tenderholt to close on the amendment. The chair recognizes Mr. Jetton in opposition to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've spent the last 2 sessions on public health listening to hours and hours of testimony when it comes to gender modification of children. And there's no doubt in my mind that there is a need for a bill to fully address gender modification, gender affirming care here in Texas. And I believe that there's a bill that is going to pass this House that addresses that issue. The bill that I'm bringing here today is strictly for children's hospitals to be able to get the funding so that when a child goes to an emergency room, either attempting to commit suicide, having suicidal ideation, or having some sort of extreme situation, that there are beds and there are services available for that child. That is what this bill does. It does not pertain to gender modification of any type. And so in my attempts to keep this bill that has been worked on by many stakeholders, to preserve the hard work that was put into this bill, I'm asking you to vote no on this amendment.
The chair recognizes Mr. Tinderholt to close on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, while I respect what he's saying, I'm going to try every single opportunity to stop children from being abused, every single opportunity. And a lot of these kids that go there that want to hurt themselves, I think there's a percentage of them that may be transitioning. I move adoption.
Mr. Tinderholt sent an amendment. The amendment is not acceptable to the author. A record vote has been requested by Mr. Harris of Anderson. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Jetton voting nay. Ms. Johnson of Dallas voting nay. Have all members voted? There being 52 ayes and 90 nays, the amendment fails to adopt.
Jacey Jetton asked his Republican colleagues to vote no on that amendment, and there were a handful that followed. Actually, a big chunk initially voted no, and then when they realized the dumb thing he asked them to vote for, they quickly went and changed their vote, which left 11 Republicans voting. So a bunch of them are like, well, we're with Jacey because he used these buzzwords, stakeholders, keeping the bill clean. Here's what his bill did. His bill said, if you need a larger mental health care facility for children, we will pay taxpayer money. We will give you money to build a larger facility. Tony Tinderholt comes in and says, hey, some of these mental health facilities are socially transitioning kids. So if we're building a bigger facility, we're literally just socially transitioning more kids with radical transgender ideology. So why don't we say that if you're one of the mental health facilities that are trying to get this money, then you need to tell us that you're not socially transitioning kids. And if you're not, that's where we'd rather the money go. I want to use this to revert back to last week's episode where we talked about the taxpayer-funded foreign labor. Many times conservatives in the past have basically simply argued, this is not the role of government and we shouldn't fund that. And that is true. Like, you should look at a program and go, government shouldn't be spending money doing that. Let's vote against it. Hollywood subsidies that were pushed this last session. Probably the issue that I disagreed with Dan Patrick the most on. He pushed these massive Hollywood subsidies. And these actors that came and testified to say, give us these billions of dollars are literally right now trashing Trump. But you can look at certain programs and say, that's not the role of government. Don't fund it. And the same thing here with this Jetton bill. Hey, I want to build a bunch of facilities for mental health care. Well, you could have a discussion about whether that's the role of government and whether we're getting distracted. But what I think Tony Tinderholt in this instance did in 2023, and then he did it in 2025 on the foreign labor issue, was to say, hey, if we're giving this money away, shouldn't we make sure we're not funding our enemies while we're at it? Shouldn't we make sure that we are not literally building a bigger facility to socially transition children? And so that's his argument. And that's what it was. I'm going to tell you the other 10 Republicans that voted with Jacey Jetton on that one. Ernest Bales lost his reelection campaign, by the way, and was attacked on this issue. Angie Chen Button, Drew Darby, Kyle Casal lost his campaign, actually left. He left. Stan Kitzman up for re-election this time. Stephanie Click lost on this issue because this was the second time she voted wrong on this issue. She was done. She was attacked on this issue. Stephanie Click and Jacey Jetton were outliers last election cycle because unlike Ernest Bales and some of these other people, Hugh Shine is on this list. He was also attacked for his vote with Jacey Jetton, and it hurt him. But Stephanie Click and Jacey Jetton were supported by Governor Abbott for re-election. They received hundreds of thousands of dollars from him and others who went in and spent heavily to try to keep them. The school choice lobby that helped oust many very bad Republicans supported Jacey Jetton and Stephanie Click. They were all in for them. They spent a lot of money. So many of the forces that were trying to take out some of the rhinos like Glenn Rogers or Hugh Shine or Ernest Bales were trying to save Jacey Jetton and Stephanie Click. And they lost spectacularly. And I think the number one vote that took them down was this vote. And Jacey Jetton was the advocate in that situation. So why do I bring this up? Because he's running for Congress. Jacey Jetton, after doing this and getting thrown out of office, he had like $1.6 million for his reelection campaign, and he got trounced. And now he's decided to try to take on Trevor Nels for Congress. Republicans, we talk about how culture is based on what you honor and what you shame. That's one of the things that defines culture. What do you honor and what do you shame? The legislative building, the Capitol, honors people who say things like, the stakeholders haven't agreed to this. Let's keep the bill clean. Oh, the Capitol loves it when you say things like that. But that is also then, if that means that you're voting to give taxpayer money to facilities that are socially transitioning kids with radical transgender ideology, then Republican voters shame you, and rightfully so. So Republican voters should shame Jacey Jetton. They did 2 years ago. And that should send a message to all Republican elected officials. Don't do this. The things that the Capitol will sometimes honor you for, your voters will shame you for. And the reason the grassroots conservative movement is growing in Texas is because more lawmakers go, well, I don't want to be shamed by my voters, so I'm not going to do that really dumb thing that Jacey Jetton is asking me to do. And I believe the more that happens, the less friction exists between the grassroots and the elected class. But Jacey Jetton is running for Congress. But Jacey Jetton is not the only person who wants to be a congressman. That's a little surprising. One of them is Darrell Issa. And Darrell Issa is one of the wealthiest congressmen, I think, in Congress. Maybe the wealthiest congressman in Congress. He's worth like, I don't know, $500 million. And he's from California. And Texas redistricted our congressional seats, so we have 5 new Republican congressmen. And California redistricted their map, so they have 5 less Republican congressmen. And Darrell Issa is one of those 5 less Republican congressmen. So he has decided, as a result, that he's probably going to move to Texas to run for Congress. And this is just another little curveball at the end of filing that could make Texas politics the most enjoyable place to be. Texas politics is never, ever boring. And even when we think we have enough tension and stories and conflicts happening in a cycle, there's always a couple you don't see coming. And the one that no one sees coming is a California congressman parachuting into Texas to run for Congress in Texas. So it's going to be very interesting. By the time I come back to you next week, Darrell Issa will have made a final decision on whether he's moving to Texas, where he's moving, what he's running for, and we will see what that means for this upcoming cycle. There's a lot of other things going on, but I hope that that at least gives you a general understanding of some of the conflicts that are happening, why they matter, and some of the positive moves that Texas has made, that the grassroots have made to make Texas a better place, a harder place to be a bad Republican elected official and an easier place to be a principled conservative. May God bless you, and may God bless Texas.
Be sure to subscribe to Texas Scorecard on YouTube and click that bell to ensure you're a real Texan. If you liked this video and want to see more citizen-driven journalism, be sure to click like and go to TexasScorecard.com to read about all things Texas. Texas Scorecard, real news for real Texans.